Captain Daeho Kim, was drinking his morning coffee when the emergency alarm started screaming through the ship. The sound made his teeth hurt and his hands shake as he put down the metal cup. The bridge of the UES Defiance had been quiet just seconds before, but now red lights flashed everywhere and his crew was running to their stations like their lives depended on it. Daeho had been a spaceship captain for 23 years. He had seen pirates attack merchant ships. He had watched solar storms tear apart entire fleets. He had even survived a black hole that tried to eat his ship. But nothing had ever made his stomach feel this cold and empty. The emergency signal was coming from Earth Command, and it was using the highest priority code possible. Lieutenant Commander High One Nam rushed onto the bridge with her uniform half-buttoned and her black hair still messy from sleep. She had been his second-in-command for 5 years, and Daeho had never seen her look this scared. Her dark eyes were wide and she was breathing hard like she had run all the way from her quarters. The main screen flashed to life and showed the face of Admiral Kyung Soo-han back on Earth. The old man looked like he had aged 10 years in the past hour. His gray hair was sticking up in all directions, and there were deep lines around his eyes that Daeho had never noticed before. The Admiral opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out for several long seconds. Finally, Admiral Han found his voice. But it sounded broken and tired. Captain Kim, you need to hear this message. The Galactic Council has made their decision about humanity. They voted 3 hours ago, and the results are not good for us. The old man paused and looked down at something on his desk before continuing. They have removed our protected species status. Daeho felt his heart stop beating for a moment. Protected species status was the only thing that kept alien races from invading Earth. It was like a giant invisible shield. That said, humans were still learning about space and needed time to grow stronger. Without that protection, Earth was just another planet that anyone could claim. But Admiral Han was not finished speaking. The Council has also classified Earth as a resource allocation zone. They say our planet has valuable minerals and good farming land. They want to move human populations to reservation areas so alien colonies can use the rest of our world. The Admiral's hands were shaking as he held up an official document with alien writing all over. HFY made a small gasping sound and covered her mouth with her hand. Several other crew members started talking at once, but their voices sounded far away to Daeho. Everything felt like it was happening in slow motion. The coffee in his stomach turned into acid, and he thought he might throw up right there on the bridge. The message continued, and Admiral Han explained that 12 different alien species had already filed claims for parts of Earth. The bird-like Crethari wanted the tropical regions for their breeding colonies. The slug-like Vorthak claimed the ocean floors for their underwater cities. The worst part was that the Council expected humans to be grateful for being allowed to keep small areas of their own planet. Representative Jin Park from the Human Embassy on the Council homeworld appeared on screen next. Her usually perfect hair was messy and her formal blue dress had tears in it. She looked like she had been in a fight. Jin had always been calm and professional, but now she was clearly angry and scared. I tried to speak for our people, she said, but they would not listen. The Council members were laughing at me. They kept calling humans cute little primitives who did not understand real politics. One of the Nixari representatives said humans were like children playing with toy spaceships. The insult burned in Daeho's chest like fire. The worst part came when Jin described what happened when she demanded to know why the Council was doing this. The Kralix ambassador had stood up on his forelegs and explained it like he was talking to a stupid child. He said humans had been in space for only 50 years, while most Council races had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. According to the aliens, humans were too young and too weak to deserve a whole planet to themselves. They pointed out that Earth's military consisted of only a few hundred small ships scattered across the galaxy. The Council believed humans would cause less trouble if they were managed by more advanced species who knew how to use planets properly. Daeho looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These were good people who had worked hard to earn their positions on one of humanity's finest exploration vessels. They had families back on Earth who were counting on them to keep exploring and learning about the galaxy. None of them deserved to become refugees in their own solar system. Communications Officer Bong-Soo Lee spoke up from his station. Captain, we are getting similar messages from every human ship in this sector. The betrayal was not just happening to the Defiance. Every human crew member in space was learning that their homeworld had been sold out by aliens they had trusted. The final part of Admiral Han's message was the hardest to hear. He explained that the Council was giving humanity 6 months to relocate populations and prepare for the arrival of alien colonists. Any humans who refused to move to the designated reservation zones would be removed by force if necessary. The Council had already approved the use of their military fleets to ensure compliance. As the transmission ended, Deho sat in his captain's chair, feeling like the entire universe had just collapsed around him. For 50 years, humans had believed they were building friendships with other species. They had shared their art, their music, and their stories. They had even helped some alien races solve problems with their technology, but none of that mattered. Now the aliens had never seen humans as equals. They had been waiting for the right moment to take what they wanted. The Council had been patient, like hunters waiting for the perfect shot. Now they believed humans were too spread out and too weak to fight. Bakai One walked over to stand beside Deho's chair. "Captain, what are your orders?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Deho knew that whatever he decided next would change everything. The easy days of peaceful exploration were over. Now humanity would have to decide if they would fight for their freedom or accept slavery on their own world. Deho looked out at the stars through the bridge's main window. Those distant suns had once seemed full of promise and adventure. Now they looked cold and hostile, like the eyes of enemies. The galaxy had shown its true face, and it was ugly. The captain took a deep breath and prepared to make the most important decision of his life. Captain Deho Kim had not slept for 3 days since receiving the terrible news about Earth. The betrayal by the Galactic Council kept playing in his mind like a bad dream that would not end. He sat on his bridge staring at the star charts, wondering how humanity could possibly fight back against thousands of alien worlds with their tiny fleet of exploration ships. Everything changed when his communications officer Bongsu Lee received an encrypted message that made his face turn white. The young man looked up from his console with shaking hands. "Captain, this transmission is using codes I have never seen before. It says it is from Admiral Sojin Park, but the source location makes no sense." Admiral Sojin Park was a legend among human space crews. She had been one of the first people to command a starship when humanity discovered faster than light travel. Everyone knew she had retired 15 years ago to work on some secret project for Earth Defense Command. The official story was that she was designing better engines for cargo ships. The main screen flickered and showed a woman with silver hair, pulled back in a military style. Her uniform was different from the standard Earth fleet design and had patches that Deho did not recognize. Behind her was a massive window that showed nothing but empty space and distant stars. Her dark eyes looked directly at the camera with the intensity of someone who had seen too much. Where Admiral Park began speaking in a voice that was calm but carried the weight of authority that only came from commanding real military operations. "Fellow humans, the time for pretending has ended. The Galactic Council believes we are weak, defenseless primitives who will surrender our homeworld without a fight. They are about to learn how wrong they have been about us." She moved away from the camera and gestured toward the window behind her. "What you cannot see in the darkness of space represents 50 years of preparation for this exact moment. While our exploration ships were making friends and trading with aliens, our best engineers and scientists were building something the galaxy has never seen before." The view through the window suddenly changed as floodlights activated. Outside the Admiral's ship, what they revealed made every person watching gasp in amazement. Hundreds of warships hung in perfect formation in the darkness. Their hulls were black as space itself and covered with weapons that seemed to bend light. Around them, these ships looked nothing like the peaceful exploration vessels that aliens had come to expect from humanity. Admiral Park continued her explanation while the camera showed more and more of the hidden fleet these ships have been constructed over the past 30 years in asteroid mining facilities that officially do not exist. We told the Council we were mining rare metals for our electronics industry. What we were really doing was building the most advanced military force the galaxy has ever seen. The Admiral walked along a corridor that looked more like the inside of a fortress than a spaceship. The walls were lined with weapons lockers and tactical displays. Every surface seemed designed for war rather than exploration. She stopped at a viewing port that showed fighter craft moving in complex patterns. These small ships moved with grace and speed that made alien fighters look like they were flying through thick mud while you were out there exploring and learning about alien cultures. Our military researchers were studying every council species. We know their weaknesses, their tactics, and their technology. We have designed weapons specifically to counter every advantage they think they have over us. Park's voice carried a hint of satisfaction, like a hunter who had spent years preparing the perfect trap. The Admiral led viewers through different sections of her flagship, showing advanced laboratories where human scientists worked on projects that seemed impossible, weapons that could tear through the strongest alien armor, energy shields that made Council defense systems look like paper walls, computer systems that could outthink the most advanced alien artificial intelligence programs. In one laboratory, a team of researchers demonstrated a new type of plasma weapon that could slice through a meter of alien hull metal in seconds. Another team showed kinetic projectiles that moved so fast they could punch holes through entire ships. The most impressive was an electromagnetic pulse system that could shut down every electronic system on an enemy vessel without warning. Admiral Park explained that every human exploration ship in space was actually equipped with hidden weapon systems disguised as normal equipment. What aliens saw as simple sensor arrays were actually targeting systems. What looked like communication dishes were really beam weapon emitters. Even the cargo holds contained military supplies hidden behind false walls. The secret went deeper than just weapons and ships. Park revealed that thousands of human military personnel had been placed throughout the galaxy disguised as merchants, traders, and diplomats. These sleeper agents had spent years mapping alien military installations, learning patrol routes, and identifying key targets. They were waiting for orders to begin operations. The Admiral showed footage of asteroid bases hidden in remote star systems that looked like natural rock formations from the outside. Inside these secret facilities, human workers had been mass-producing military equipment for decades. Factories that officially made farming equipment were really building combat suits. Shipyards that claimed to repair cargo vessels were actually assembling destroyer-class warships. Admiral Park paused at a tactical display showing the entire galaxy marked with thousands of red and blue dots. The red dots represented Council military assets, while blue dots showed hidden human forces. The display revealed that humanity had quietly positioned military units within striking distance of every major alien stronghold. The most shocking revelation came when Park explained how humans had been testing their weapons in secret deep space. Accidents that were reported as equipment failures had actually been weapons tests. Mysterious explosions near remote alien outposts had been reconnaissance missions. Several alien ships that disappeared without explanation had been captured for study. She revealed that human intelligence agents had been watching Council meetings for years. They knew about the vote to revoke Earth's protection status weeks before it happened. The betrayal was not a surprise, but rather the trigger humanity had been waiting for. To reveal their true capabilities, Admiral Park moved to what appeared to be a command center where dozens of human officers worked at stations, monitoring alien communications across the galaxy. We have been listening to their private messages for 20 years. We know their military codes, their fleet movements, and their political secrets. The Council thinks they are the hunters, but they have actually been the prey. This entire time the Admiral's expression became serious as she addressed the camera directly. The aliens made one critical mistake in their assessment of humanity. They assumed that because we appeared peaceful, we were also helpless. They forgot that humans evolved as predators on a world where only the strongest survive. She gestured toward another display showing Earth surrounded by defensive platforms that had been disguised as research stations. Our homeworld is not as defenseless as it appears. These installations can destroy any alien fleet that tries to approach Earth. The Council's invasion force will find a very different welcome than they expect. As the transmission continued, Admiral Park revealed the scope of humanity's secret military buildup. Over 3,000 warships hidden in deep space, millions of human soldiers trained in zero-gravity combat, advanced artificial intelligence systems that could coordinate attacks, Across multiple star systems, weapons technology that was decades ahead of anything the Council possessed. The final revelation was the most important of all. Admiral Park announced that the hidden human fleet was not just for defense. They had been built for conquest. The time had come for humanity to claim its rightful place as the dominant species in the galaxy. The Council had opened a war they could not win. Admiral Park ended her message with words that sent chills through every human who heard them. The age of alien rule is over. Tomorrow, we begin operations that will reshape the political structure of this galaxy. The Council wanted to treat us like primitive animals. Now they will learn what happens when you corner Earth's apex predators. Commander Tae-Won Lee checked his weapon systems for the 10th time in 5 minutes as his strike fleet moved through hyperspace toward their target. The silence in his ship felt heavy like the air before a terrible storm. His hands were steady on the controls, but his heart was beating so fast he could hear it in his ears. Today, humanity would show the galaxy what they were really capable of. The target was Kepler Station, the largest military shipyard in Council space. The massive facility orbited a dead planet in the Vorthen system and was home to over 50,000 alien military personnel. It was also where the Council built their most powerful warships and stored enough weapons to conquer 100 worlds. Tae-Won had studied every detail of Kepler Station for the past 6 months. He knew where every weapon was placed, how many ships were docked there, and exactly how their defense systems worked. The aliens thought their station was impregnable, protected by energy shields that had never been broken and surrounded by patrol fleets that could detect any approaching enemy. What the aliens did not know was that human technology had advanced far beyond anything they had seen. The weapons on Tae-Won's ships could punch through their strongest shields like they were made of paper. The stealth systems made human vessels invisible to alien sensors, and the speed of human ships made it possible to attack and escape before the enemy could even respond. Lieutenant Commander Yeon Kim sat at the tactical station running final checks on their attack plan. She had been Tae-Won's weapons officer for 3 years and had trained specifically for this mission. Her fingers danced over the controls with the precision of someone who had practiced the same movements thousands of times. Commander, the fleet is ready for deployment. All weapon systems are online and stealth fields are operating at maximum efficiency. We will be invisible to their sensors until we choose to reveal ourselves. The Yeon-seo's voice was calm, but Tae-Won could see the excitement in her eyes. She had been waiting her entire career for a chance to prove that human military technology was superior to anything the aliens possessed. The strike fleet consisted of 12 ships designed specifically for this type of operation, fast attack vessels that carried enough firepower to destroy targets many times their size, advanced fighters that could outmaneuver any alien interceptor, and electronic warfare ships that could jam enemy communications and take control of their computer systems as they dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Vorthen system. Tae-Won felt his stomach flip. The moment of truth had arrived. In a few hours, the entire galaxy would know that humanity was no longer content to play the role of peaceful explorers. The aliens had made the mistake of threatening Earth, and now they would pay the price. Kepler Station appeared on their sensors as a massive structure that stretched for hundreds of kilometers in all directions. Docking bays held thousands of alien warships while construction yards worked on building even more. The station's energy output was enormous, enough to power an entire planet. Its weapon systems could destroy approaching fleets long before they got close enough to cause any damage, but the aliens had made their defensive plans based on fighting other alien species. They had never faced human military tactics or human weapons technology. Their sensors were designed to detect the energy signatures of Council ships, not the advanced stealth systems that human engineers had developed. A1 activated the fleet communication system and spoke to his captains in a voice that carried across 12 ships. This is the moment we have trained for. Remember that we are not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for every human child who deserves to grow up free on Earth. We are fighting for the right of humanity to determine its own destiny. The attack began with electronic warfare ships, sending invisible signals that infiltrated Kepler Station's computer networks. Within seconds, they had taken control of the station's communication systems and begun feeding false information to the alien defenders. The station's sensors showed normal space with no signs of approaching enemies. Meanwhile, human fighters launched from their carriers and began moving toward the station in attack formation. These small craft were works of art designed by engineers who understood that in space combat speed and maneuverability were more important than size or heavy armor. They moved through space like deadly insects swarming toward their prey, the first alien patrol ship to detect. The human fleet was a Kralix destroyer that had wandered too far from the main defensive perimeter. Its crew barely had time to send a warning signal before human plasma weapons turned their ship into glowing debris. The attack was so fast and devastating that other alien ships thought the destroyer had suffered an equipment malfunction. Tay-1 watched his tactical display as human ships moved into position around Kepler Station like pieces on a chessboard. Each vessel had a specific target and a precise timing for their attack. The aliens still had no idea they were under assault. Their defensive systems remained offline because their computers were telling them that everything was normal. The main assault began when Yun Seo pressed the firing button that activated weapon systems across the entire human fleet. Beams of energy that could slice through the strongest materials known to science struck Kepler Station's shields simultaneously from 12 different angles. The alien energy barriers that had protected the station for decades collapsed in less than 30 seconds. Alien crews throughout the facility scrambled to battle stations as alarms began, screaming warnings about hull breaches and system failures. But their response was too slow and too confused. Human weapons were destroying critical systems faster than alien repair teams could even locate the damage. The station's massive size had become a weakness as explosions spread through corridors, and compartments. Fighter squadrons led by Captain Minho Park swept through the station's docking bays, destroying parked alien warships before they could launch. Human pilots had trained in virtual reality simulations that perfectly recreated the interior layout of Kepler Station. They knew exactly where to strike for maximum damage and minimum risk to themselves. The alien defenders tried to coordinate a response, but their communication systems had been compromised by human electronic warfare. Specialists' orders were being changed or blocked entirely. Computer viruses were spreading through their networks, causing weapons to malfunction and life support systems to shut down randomly. Admiral Vorthak, the Kralix commander of Kepler Station, stood on his command bridge watching his life's work being destroyed around him. His forearms gestured frantically as he tried to understand how primitive humans had penetrated the most secure facility in Council space. His tactical officers were REPORTG, impossible things, human ships that appeared and disappeared from sensors, weapons that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Human attack was surgical and precise rather than simply destroying everything. They targeted specific systems that would cause maximum disruption. Power generators that supplied energy to the entire facility, computer cores that contained decades of military research, shipyard equipment that was impossible to replace. The aliens would not just lose a Kepler Station, they would lose years of technological development. As the battle continued, human ships demonstrated capabilities that terrified the alien defenders. They could accelerate to speeds that should have killed their crews. They could maneuver in ways that violated basic principles of physics. Their weapons seemed to have unlimited range and perfect accuracy. Commander Tay-1 monitored the progress of the attack from his flagship, watching as his carefully planned operation unfolded exactly as intended. The aliens were brave fighters, but they were using tactics and technology that were designed for a different type of warfare. They had no experience dealing with an enemy that could strike from stealth, move faster than their sensors, could track and coordinate attacks across vast distances with perfect timing. Within 2 hours, Kepler Station was a burning ruin drifting in space. Most of the alien warships docked there had been destroyed or captured. The few vessels that managed to escape were damaged and demoralized, carrying news of defeat back to Council worlds throughout the galaxy. But the most important victory was not the destruction of ships or facilities, it was the psychological impact of the attack. For the first time in centuries, a Council military installation had been completely destroyed by an enemy fleet. The myth of alien technological superiority had been shattered in a single afternoon as Tay-1's fleet prepared to jump back into hyperspace. He sent a message that would be broadcast across the galaxy. This is Commander Tae-Won Lee of the Human Defense Fleet. Today, humanity has served notice that Earth will not be conquered or colonized by alien species, any council forces that approach. Our territory will meet the same fate as Kepler Station. The age of human submission is over. The message was simple, but its meaning was clear. Humanity had revealed that they possessed military capabilities far beyond what the Council had imagined. The peaceful explorers were actually deadly predators who had been hiding their true nature for decades. The galaxy would never be the same. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in the organization's 3,000-year history. Ambassador Kethmal of the Vorthan Empire stood before the great assembly hall with his tentacles writhing in patterns that showed extreme distress. His blue skin had turned pale purple, which meant he was terrified beyond normal comprehension. The holographic display behind him showed what remained of Kepler Station, twisted metal debris floating in space where once the galaxy's most advanced military facility had operated. Just days before, the images were difficult to watch even for species that had seen centuries of warfare. The destruction was too complete, too precise, and had happened far too quickly. Fellow council members, Kethmal began, but his voice cracked like breaking glass. Kepler Station is gone, completely destroyed, along with over 300 of our finest warships. The facility that took us 50 years to build was reduced to scrap metal in less than 3 hours. The tentacled alien paused to gather himself before continuing, and it was done by humans. A wave of shocked gasps and angry chittering sounds swept through the assembly hall. Representatives from dozens of alien species began talking at once, in languages that the translation systems could barely keep up with. Many of them were saying the same thing in different ways. This was impossible. Humans were primitives with toy spaceships. The Kralix ambassador stood up on his 4 armored legs and slammed his claws against his speaking podium. The sound echoed through the hall like gunshots. This is obviously some kind of mistake or deception. Humans do not possess military technology capable of such destruction. They barely understand. Faster than light travel, but the evidence was overwhelming. Reports were flooding in from 17 different star systems where human fleets had appeared without warning, destroyed Council military installations, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Every attack followed the same pattern: surgical strikes that eliminated specific targets while avoiding civilian casualties. High Admiral Zekthar of the Nexari Defense Fleet projected his crystalline form into the center of the assembly. His normally blue light had turned a sickly yellow color, which indicated fear among his species. I have reviewed all available tactical data from these attacks. The human vessels demonstrate capabilities that exceed our current understanding of physics. The Admiral's analysis was frightening. Human ships seemed to move through space without using conventional propulsion systems. Their weapons fired beams of energy that behaved unlike any known technology. Their electronic warfare capabilities allowed them to take control of alien computer systems from impossible distances. Most terrifying of all was the coordination between human forces. Attacks happening simultaneously across multiple star systems suggested a level of strategic planning that required decades of preparation. The humans had not stumbled into military superiority. They had been building toward this moment for a very long time. Ambassador Valandra of the Hegemony Worlds activated her personal shield as other representatives began moving closer to the speaking area. Her species was naturally suspicious, and she had been warning about human expansion for years. They have been deceiving us this entire time. While we thought they were peaceful explorers, they were actually studying our defenses and planning for war. The realization was spreading through the council chambers like a deadly virus. Humans had spent 50 years visiting alien worlds, learning about their technology and mapping their military installations. What everyone had assumed was innocent curiosity had actually been military intelligence gathering on an unprecedented scale. Trade Representative Morden from the Commercial Guild brought up financial records that made the situation even worse. Human merchants had been purchasing specific types of rare materials for decades, materials that were essential for advanced weapons. Manufacturing the primitives had been quietly acquiring everything they needed to build a war machine. The panic intensified when military intelligence officers began sharing classified information about human activities. Recent analysis of human-controlled asteroid mining operations revealed that they were not extracting metals for electronics as claimed. They were building military facilities disguised as civilian installations. Captain 3 of the Council Security Fleet displayed sensor logs from the past year showing unusual energy signatures near human colonies. What had been dismissed as industrial activity was now clearly the testing of advanced weapons systems. The humans had been conducting military exercises right under alien noses. The psychological impact was devastating. Representatives from species that had dominated the galaxy for millennia were forced to confront the possibility that they had been outsmarted by newcomers who had only been in space for 50 years. The humans had played the role of harmless primitives so convincingly that no one had suspected their true capabilities. Reports continued to arrive throughout the emergency session. Each new piece of information painted a more frightening picture of human military power. Advanced fighter craft that could outmaneuver anything in the Council's arsenal, electronic warfare systems that could blind entire fleets, weapons that seemed to ignore fundamental laws of physics. The Turthan speaker rose from his position and began displaying classified Council military plans that had somehow been obtained by human intelligence services. The documents showed defensive strategies, battle group formations, and weapon specifications that were supposed to be absolutely secret. Humanity had been reading the Council's mail for decades, but the most shocking revelation came when Ambassador Jin Park of Earth requested permission to address the Assembly. The same human diplomat who had been laughed at just weeks earlier now walked into the Council chambers wearing a military uniform instead of civilian clothes. Her entire demeanor had changed from pleading supplicant to confident predator. The transformation was unsettling enough to make several alien representatives back away from the speaking area. Jin-A moved with the precision of someone trained in combat rather than diplomacy. Her dark eyes swept across the assembly with the calculating gaze of a military strategist rather than a political negotiator. Members of the Galactic Council, Jin-A began in a voice that carried clearly through the vast chamber. I come before you today not as a petitioner seeking favor, but as a representative of humanity's military command. The pretense of peaceful exploration is over. You wanted to treat Earth as a resource to be divided among alien colonies. Now you will discover what happens when you threaten apex predators. The human diplomat activated a holographic display that showed the current military situation across Council space. Red markers indicated human fleet positions, while blue markers showed remaining Council forces. The display revealed that humanity had positioned military assets within striking distance of every major alien world. Furthermore, Jin-A continued, human intelligence services have been monitoring Council communications for the past 20 years. We know about your classified military research, your secret weapons programs, and your contingency plans for dealing with rebellious member species. We probably understand your own capabilities better than you do. The implications were staggering. If humans had been conducting intelligence operations on that scale for 2 decades, then every Council military secret had been compromised. Every defensive plan, every weapon system, every tactical doctrine had been studied and countered by human strategists. The assembly hall descended into chaos as representatives began demanding answers from their own military commanders. How had human spies penetrated their most secure facilities? Why had human technological advancement gone unnoticed for so long? How many other human capabilities remained hidden? Ambassador Jin-A waited patiently for the noise to die down before delivering her final message. The Galactic Council made a critical error in judgment when you assumed that peaceful behavior indicated weakness. Humans evolved as hunters on a world where failure meant extinction. We have spent 50 years in space learning everything we needed to know about your species. She gestured toward the tactical display showing human fleet positions surrounding Council territories. The vote to strip Earth's protection status and colonize our homeworld was not unexpected. We have been preparing for this moment since first contact. You declared war on humanity. Now you will experience the consequences. As Jin-A left the speaking platform, the assembly erupted into arguments and recriminations. Some representatives called for immediate military action while others demanded negotiations. Species that had been allies for centuries began accusing each other of security failures. The panic was spreading beyond the council chambers as news of human military capabilities reached alien homeworld. Stock markets crashed as investors realized that the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted overnight. Military commands scrambled to develop new defensive strategies based on incomplete information about human technology. But perhaps the most frightening aspect of the situation was that humanity seemed to be just getting started. The attacks on military installations were clearly demonstration strikes, designed to announce their presence. The real test of human military power was yet to come, and no one in the council had any idea how to prepare for it. Captain Yunji Cho stood alone in the center of the Galactic Council's Grand Assembly Hall, wearing the black uniform of Earth's Strategic Command. The massive chamber could hold representatives from over 200 alien species, and today every seat was filled. The atmosphere was thick with fear and tension as hundreds of alien eyes focused on the single human who had requested this emergency session. Above the great dome that covered the assembly hall, Earth's war fleet hung in perfect formation against the star-filled sky. The ships were arranged in precise geometric patterns that demonstrated both military discipline and overwhelming firepower. Massive dreadnought-class vessels surrounded by swarms of smaller destroyers and fighter craft. The message was clear: humanity possessed the ability to reduce the Council's capital world to ash. Within Horsenji had been chosen for this mission because of her reputation as humanity's most skilled negotiator. She had spent 15 years working in diplomatic circles, building relationships with alien species and learning their cultural traditions. But today she was not here to negotiate. She was here to deliver humanity's final ultimatum to the species that had betrayed Earth. The silence in the chamber was broken only by the nervous sounds that different alien species made when they were afraid. Krallick's delegates clicked their claws against their armor. Vorthan representatives made low humming noises with their tentacles. Nexari beings flickered between different colors as their crystalline bodies struggled to maintain composure. Yunji activated the speaking system, and her voice carried clearly to every corner of the vast hall. Members of the Galactic Council, I stand before you today as the official representative of humanity's military government. The peaceful Earth Republic that you knew no longer exists. It has been replaced by an administration dedicated to protecting human interests throughout this galaxy. She paused to let the implications of her words sink in before continuing. The vote to revoke Earth's protection status and classify our homeworld as a resource allocation zone was an act of war against the human species. You assumed we would accept this decision because you believed we were weak and primitive. You were wrong on both counts. The holographic displays around the chamber activated to show tactical information about human military capabilities, ship specifications that revealed technology decades ahead of anything the Council possessed. Weapon systems that could penetrate the strongest alien defenses. Electronic warfare capabilities that could blind entire fleets. What you see represented here is the result of 50 years of careful planning and preparation. Unji continued while gesturing toward the data displays. Human engineers have studied every alien technology encountered. During our expansion into space, we have identified weaknesses in your military systems that you yourselves do not know exist. The aliens in the assembly began shifting uncomfortably as the displays showed detailed analysis of their own defensive capabilities. Human intelligence had penetrated every major Council military installation. Human computer specialists had mapped the electronic systems of every alien warship. Human strategists understood the tactical doctrines of every species better than their own commanders did. But Yunji was not finished revealing the extent of human preparation. The displays changed to show economic data that painted an even more disturbing picture. Human-controlled corporations had quietly gained influence over critical supply chains throughout Council space. Alien worlds dependent on human-manufactured goods or human-operated shipping routes could be economically strangled within weeks. The revelation sent waves of panic through different species delegations. The hegemony representatives realized that humans controlled 60% of their interstellar communications network. The Terthan Empire discovered that human companies operated most of their orbital manufacturing facilities. Even the mighty Vorthan fleet depended on human suppliers for essential computer components. Admiral Zarketh of the Council Defense Forces stood up on his insectoid legs and demanded answers. How is it possible that primitive humans could have infiltrated our most secure operations without detection? Your species has been in space for less than a century while we have been building interstellar civilizations for thousands of years. Xianji smiled in a way that made several alien representatives step backward. The expression was not friendly or diplomatic. It was the smile of a predator who had been planning this moment for a very long time. Admiral, your question reveals exactly why the Council failed to understand humanity. You assume that because we appeared primitive, we actually were primitive. She activated another set of displays that showed the true scope of human expansion throughout the galaxy. What appeared to be simple trade outposts were actually military supply depots. Civilian research stations were really intelligence gathering facilities. Even human merchant ships carried concealed weapon systems and trained military personnel. The humans you encountered during first contact were carefully selected individuals, trained to present a specific image of our species. Yunji explained, we wanted you to see us as harmless explorers who pose no threat to established powers. While you were dismissing us as primitives, our military strategists were developing plans to neutralize every advantage you thought you possessed over us. The psychological warfare was devastatingly effective. Representatives who had spent their careers feeling superior to younger species were forced to confront the reality that they had been outmaneuvered by the very beings they had looked down upon. The humans had not just beaten them militarily, they had beaten them intellectually. But the most frightening revelation was yet to come. Unji activated a final set of displays that showed human population growth and industrial capacity. Earth was not just one world anymore. Human colonies existed throughout the galaxy, hidden in systems that the Council had never bothered to explore. Human industrial output already exceeded that of most established alien civilizations. The Council faces a simple choice, Yunji announced, as the displays showed the true strength of human civilization. You can accept humanity as the dominant species in this galaxy and restructure your political systems accordingly, or you can continue to resist and watch your civilizations burn. She gestured toward the ceiling where Earth's war fleet remained visible through the transparent dome. The ships hanging over your capital world represent less than 5% of humanity's total military capacity. We have fleets stationed near every major Council territory. Every alien homeworld is within range of human weapon systems. Every critical installation can be destroyed within hours of receiving orders. The ultimatum was delivered with calm professionalism that made it even more terrifying. Yunji was not making threats or emotional appeals. She was simply explaining the new reality that the Council would have to accept. The age of alien dominance was over and humanity would be taking control of galactic affairs. The specific terms were non-negotiable. The Galactic Council would be dissolved and replaced with a new organization under human leadership. Alien military forces would be reduced to planetary defense levels. Only human administrators would oversee trade relationships between species. All research into advanced military technology would be conducted under human supervision. Furthermore, Yunji continued, any species that attempted to resist these changes would be treated as hostile and dealt with accordingly. Human intelligence services have compiled detailed information about the leadership structure of every Council member species. We know where your political leaders live, where your military commanders operate, and where your critical infrastructure is located. The implications were clear. Humanity could decapitate any alien government within days of deciding to do so. The careful intelligence gathering that had gone unnoticed for decades could now be used to eliminate any resistance to human rule. The aliens had been so focused on dismissing humanity as primitives that they had allowed themselves to become completely vulnerable. Several alien representatives attempted to protest or negotiate, but Unji cut them off with a gesture. These terms are not subject to discussion or modification. They represent humanity's minimum acceptable conditions for allowing your civilizations to continue existing. Any attempt to bargain or delay implementation will be interpreted as an act of defiance. The final part of the ultimatum was delivered with surgical precision. You have 72 hours to communicate your government's acceptance of these terms to Earth Command. Any species that fails to respond within that time frame will be assumed to have chosen resistance. The consequences of that choice should be obvious from recent events. As Unji prepared to leave the speaking platform, she delivered one last message that would be remembered. Throughout galactic history, the Galactic Council made the mistake of believing that peaceful behavior indicated weakness. You forgot that humans are apex predators who evolved by conquering the most dangerous planet in known space. Now you will live under the protection and guidance of a species that truly understands survival. The assembly hall remained completely silent as the human diplomat walked toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed through the vast chamber like countdown beats marking the end of one era and the beginning of another. The aliens sat frozen in their seats, trying to comprehend how completely their understanding of the galaxy had been shattered in a single afternoon. 6 months after Captain Yoonji Cho delivered humanity's ultimatum to the Galactic Council, the transformation of galactic civilization was nearly complete. Admiral So-jin Park stood in her new office overlooking the capital city of New Geneva, the administrative center of what was now called the Terran Galactic Authority. The view from her window showed a bustling metropolis where humans and aliens worked together under Earth's efficient leadership. The transition had been surprisingly smooth considering the massive changes involved. Most alien species had accepted the new reality within the required 72-hour deadline. Only 3 civilizations had chosen to resist, and their brief rebellion had been crushed so quickly that other species barely noticed. The hegemony worlds had surrendered after human fleets disabled their entire communication network in 6 hours. The Turthan resistance lasted less than 2 days before their leadership requested terms. Admiral Park reviewed the daily reports that showed how dramatically galactic society had improved under human management. Trade disputes that had dragged on for decades were resolved within days. Exploration missions that had been stalled by bureaucratic delays for years were launched within weeks. Construction projects that had been blocked by interspecies politics were completed in record time. The secret to human success was not just superior military technology, but a completely different approach to government and administration. While alien species had spent centuries developing complex bureaucratic systems designed to prevent any single group from gaining too much power, humans focused on efficiency and results. Director Lee Sang-wook of the Galactic Economic Council walked into the Admiral's office carrying data tablets that showed the remarkable improvements in economic activity throughout Council space. His weathered face showed satisfaction as he reported the latest statistics. Trade volume is up 47% from pre-transition levels. Shipping times have been reduced by 60%. Resource allocation disputes have dropped to almost zero. The transformation was visible in every aspect of galactic civilization. Human administrators had eliminated the layers of bureaucracy that had slowed decision-making to a crawl. They established clear chains of command that allowed problems to be solved quickly. They implemented standardized procedures that worked the same way regardless of which species was involved. Most importantly, humans had brought their talent for strategic thinking to bear on problems that had plagued the galaxy for centuries. The ancient territorial disputes between different alien species were resolved by human mediators who had no emotional investment in historical grievances. Resource allocation conflicts were solved by human economists who focused on efficiency rather than politics. Captain Min Jae-yu, commander of the Terran Defense Fleet, reported that military incidents throughout human-controlled space had dropped to their lowest levels in recorded history. The old council had maintained peace through complex treaties and mutual deterrence systems that required constant monitoring and adjustment. Human peace was maintained through overwhelming military superiority that made conflict pointless. The aliens had discovered that living under human rule was actually more comfortable than their previous systems. Human administrators were fair but firm. They did not play favorites based on species or political connections. They simply focused on making systems work properly. Most alien citizens found that their daily lives had improved significantly under the new ordering the former council chambers, which had been converted into a museum documenting the failures of alien self-government tour guides, explained to visitors how the old system had wasted resources and created unnecessary conflicts. The exhibits showed how human intervention had solved problems that alien politicians had been unable to address for centuries. Dr. Yoon Hae-jin, director of the Galactic Research Consortium, presented her monthly report on scientific advancement under human leadership. Research productivity had increased by over 200% as human coordinators eliminated the duplicated efforts and competition between different species. Projects that had been stalled by interspecies rivalry were now moving forward rapidly with integrated teams working toward common goals. The breakthrough achievements were impressive new propulsion systems that would cut travel time between distant stars by 70%, medical treatments that could cure diseases affecting multiple alien species, advanced manufacturing techniques that would revolutionize industrial production throughout the galaxy. Human leadership had also brought a new level of exploration and expansion to galactic civilization. The old council had been conservative about venturing into unknown regions of space, preferring to consolidate control over existing territories. Human expeditions were pushing the boundaries of known space at an unprecedented rate, discovering new worlds and new resources. Admiral Park reflected on how